Welcome to EDI 101 Module 2. In this module, we will show you how EDI data flows and is processed between trading partners. When processing EDI data or documents, there is a sender and receiver in each trading partnership. Here we see an example integration with Orderful. In this case, the sender is using Orderful and the receiver is using a traditional legacy EDI solution. We start inside the sender's system. 1. The sender extracts business information from the back end. 2. They create a JSON transaction from this business information. 3. They send the JSON transaction to Orderful via the API. The next steps occur in Orderful. 4. Within Orderful, we have auto-validation of the transaction and auto-conversion to X12. 5. We auto-send the X12 file over a protocol. This could be FTP, VAN, or AS2, but we will go into more detail in a later module. Now we move on to what happens in the receiver systems. 6. The receiving business gets an X12 file over a communication protocol, again, FTP, VAN, or AS2, and returns the delivery confirmation specific to that protocol. 7. They use a mapping tool as required for the backend system. 8. They create records in their backend system. 9. They send back a functional acknowledgment, like a 997. And 10. Finally, within Orderful, we have an auto-updated transaction acknowledgement status. In this second example, this time it is the sender using a traditional legacy EDI solution, and the receiver is the one using Orderful. Again, we start in the sender's system. 1. The sender starts by extracting business information from the back end. 2. They use a mapping tool to create an X12 file from the business information. 3. They send the X12 file over a protocol, such as FTP, VAN, or AS2. 4. Within Orderful, the receiver, who is an Orderful customer, receives the X12 file over a protocol and sends back a delivery confirmation specific to that protocol. 5. Orderful automatically performs validation of the transaction and converts it to JSON. 6. We auto-send the transaction to our customer's communication channel. 7. The Orderful customer creates a record in their backend system based on the JSON transaction. 8. The receiver sends back a functional acknowledgement, such as a 997. 9. Finally, the receiver confirms that all X12 files sent have a delivery confirmation or functional acknowledgement. Here are some of the typical transaction types you might see being traded between retail businesses. The 850 or purchase order. This is the buyer's request for goods from a supplier. An 850 specifies things like the items and their quantities that the buyer wants. An 855 or purchase order acknowledgement is sent back to the purchaser to confirm the order was received and to indicate which items will be fulfilled. An 856 advanced shipment notice is a notification back to the buyer that the fulfilled items were shipped. This will include the tracking number, line item information, and the shipment carrier information. Finally, you'll see an 810 or invoice. This would be the supplier's request for payment, detailed items shipped, quantities, prices, and other relevant information. Nice work! You've made it through Module 2. Next, we will explore X12 further.